Kevin McCarthy, it was leaked last night, is ready to make concessions to the holdouts. And you're probably wondering, which concessions? And my answer to that is all of them. Like every single thing that you can identify that one of the holdouts specifically wants, it looks like he's ready to cave on basically all of it. And some of this could change with negotiations, but according to what we know now, he is going to change it to allowing just one member to call for a vote to oust a speaker. Two different sources confirm that. That's one of the big things that someone like Lauren Boebert would talk about. It isn't good enough to just allow 5 to do it. They want any one rando to be able to do it, so he's conceded to that. He's gonna allow more members of the Freedom Caucus to serve on the powerful House Rules Committee. They say maybe a third of the House Rules Committee, which is very powerful. Has to do with a lot with how the House actually functions, what legislation comes up for a vote. So now more of the craziest people in the Republican Party will be able to determine what votes are actually held, and promises to vote on specific pieces of legislation like a term limits bill, border security. That might be Lauren Boebert's bill that she's occasionally talked about. I'm not sure, but those specifics too. Let's see. The New York Times confirmed the third of that Rules Committee part of it. Bills on allowing people to like make individual amendments to bills that defund parts of the government. Like basically at this point, he has delegated so much of the power of the speaker to literally anyone who wants to kick him out at a moment's notice, as well as to the Rules Committee. And taken together, those are massive concessions. So he might become speaker as a result of it, but the speakership he'll hold will be the weakest it's been in literally decades. And to make it even more embarrassing, and this is like my main source for Schadenfreude today, sources say it likely won't get him to 218 votes. I mean, we know right now it didn't on the 7th ballot. Maybe they're still working out some parts of that deal, but it doesn't look like even making all of those concessions, giving in basically to everything that Lauren Boebert has pulled out of her wherever to say this is why it's a principled thing. None of that looks like it's gonna be enough to actually get him in the speakership. And so a guy that already came into this process looking desperate became far more desperate. And even that, Farron, it's left, like what does he have left to give?
He could walk in there and be like, all right, listen, last concession. Every day before we start, I'll stand here, each one of you just line up, kick me right in the grapes if you want. I don't care, whatever it takes, I wanna be the speaker. I mean, that's really, the last concession he has to make, because otherwise there's nothing left of the speakership. You've given every piece of this to the hardcore right. And the thing about this is, even if, let's say for a second, McCarthy doesn't win, he's gonna be replaced with somebody who's probably going to be worse, somebody that will appeal to that Freedom Caucus. So however this ends, with McCarthy making all the concessions and winning, or losing and we get a Freedom Caucus person in there, they've won. And I think that's the big thing that they understand too. However this ends, they're the victors and McCarthy is the loser. So that's why they don't want to back down. They've got all the power and they've proved it, 7 times now, maybe 8 by the time we finish here today. Who knows at that point? I don't think there's enough pizzas in DC for Kevin McCarthy to bus them in and try to, bribe these people with pizza and soda. It's not gonna happen. They've won, they've got you, and he doesn't know how to get out of it.
100%. Yeah, you're totally right. I like your last concession. I think you should try it. I don't know if it would succeed, but I want to see this reboot of the Grapes of Wrath. But anyway, here's another concession that was made. This concession, by the way, wasn't even made by Kevin McCarthy. And you're probably wondering, wait, who else could make a concession? Well, it's the Congressional Leadership Fund, super PAC, endorsed by Kevin McCarthy and Club for Growth. So they announced a deal to stay out of open House primaries for safe Republican seats to win over people, saying, "Oh, we're not gonna be doing the challenging that we normally do. If you will please just let this guy get through." Is that gonna work? Well, again, doesn't look like it, because as of right now, Jeffries is at 209. We'll see if in the 7th ballot Kevin McCarthy has lost more votes. We don't know that just yet, but the whole thing is just, it's not looking good. And to your point, by the way, I do want to say about about them having all the power, we have to remember one thing, one fundamental asymmetry between our opposition and us is that they don't care if everything comes to a grinding halt. Like, we find that to, at least in the long term, be terrifying because no, like, we need to fix these problems. No, they don't. They don't care. They're not, there's some things they'd like to have done. There's nothing they desperately need to be done. They got the tax cuts multiple times over. They're doing just fine. The subsidies and all that have gone out. They would love to just hold this position. And so when Lauren Boebert goes on the news and says every day we've shut this down is the day money isn't being spent, it's not really how that works, but it stops any new spending from being authorized, certainly.
Well, and I think too, Ronna McDaniel needs to come out. She's still the leader of the Republican Party for now, at least on paper. She could come out and do whatever it takes to put an end to this. She was interviewed yesterday. Stuart Varney on Fox Business gave her absolute hell for having no ideas, no solutions. And the solution that she should come out with is say, listen, we look like idiots. We've got the global media mocking us right now, not just here in the US, around the globe, people are looking at us and they're laughing. So what I'm gonna say as the chair of the Republican Party is if you do not get this right, if you cannot get together and put McCarthy in there, when 2024 rolls around, you're cut off. Your primary challengers will be supported by us. We will not tolerate this kind of mockery of the Republican Party. She could do that, but instead, like she told Stuart Varney yesterday, she's like, oh, I'm optimistic, they're gonna work it out, no problems there. Which is why, of course, she's struggling so bad as the leader of the party, because she has no ideas. She has no backbone, and they're just letting the wackos take complete control of everything.
Yeah, that would be a bold move. I mean, it strikes me as fundamentally awful for a party apparatus to do that, to support one. But I mean, there's a Republican Party. They could do that. Trump would, like, if Trump really cared, he could throw his weight around in that way. But that's a big step. We'll see. So I would put it as that's like the biggest threat. Offering to get kicked in the nads would be right here. Here's an easy, doable one. Here's some advice for Kevin McCarthy. Have you considered speaking out in defense of yourself? Like actually standing up and saying why people should vote for you. Like, we're on the 7th vote, and I don't know if anybody has missed this. He has not done that yet. Vote after vote after vote after vote. Many speeches have been given by many people, repeatedly by the same people. He has not tried in public to make the case, either individually to persuade them or to the country, to the Republican voters, to put pressure on people to support him. It's all this backroom stuff. So we'll see. He's at 19 votes down right now. We'll see if it passes the 20 mark, or I should say the 21 mark, which is the low point for him so far. For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.